If you think physical touch is the key to winning his heart, you're missing the most powerful weapon you have, your mind. Stop chasing him with your hands and start captivating him with your intellect. In a world obsessed with physical attraction, women forget that the most seductive force isn't skin deep, it's psychological. A man's body may respond to a touch, but his soul ignites when a woman reaches into his thoughts, challenges his beliefs, and awakens his inner world. This is how real desire begins. A man may be initially drawn to your beauty. That's biological. It's instinctive, natural, and yes, powerful. But physical attraction is only the opening scene of a much longer story. What many women don't realize is that men, especially those who have evolved past superficial pursuits, crave something far deeper than what meets the eye. They don't just want to feel aroused, they want to feel awakened. And the one thing that has the power to awaken a man isn't a touch, a look, or even a perfectly sculpted body. It's a woman who knows how to challenge, stretch, and ignite his mind. When you stimulate a man's intellect, you enter a realm where few have dared to go, because most women are focused on the physical, on appearing sexy, on acting desirable, on presenting the perfect version of themselves to fit what they think a man wants. But what truly captures a man, what pulls him back again and again, isn't the physical, it's the psychological. When a woman sits across from him and instead of flattering him, she confronts him with thought-provoking ideas, unexpected perspectives, and sharp observations, that's when a man starts to feel not just desire, respect, admiration, fascination. There is a moment in every man's life when he meets a woman who doesn't fall into the patterns he's used to. She doesn't chase, doesn't over-explain, doesn't compete. Instead, she engages. She questions him, not to test him, but to understand him. She listens, not just to reply, but to learn how he thinks. That's when the magic begins, because once a man feels mentally stimulated, he starts to crave more than just your body. He starts to crave your presence. You become a mystery he's eager to solve, a challenge he welcomes, a puzzle that excites him even when you're not around. And here's the truth most people ignore. Physical attraction fades. That flawless face will change, that figure will evolve, and the thrill of touch will normalize. But the connection you build through stimulating conversation, emotional insight, shared passions, and philosophical depth, that connection only grows. It deepens with every exchange. It strengthens with every shared moment of vulnerability. It solidifies every time you make him think about something differently. That kind of bond is rare. That kind of intimacy is irreplaceable. And that's exactly what separates a fleeting romance from a life-altering love. Most women don't realize the power they carry simply by being intellectually present. They underestimate how much a man values a woman who brings him clarity through chaos, perspective through pressure, and questions that force him to rise higher. A mentally engaging woman is not just a partner, she's a mirror. She reflects the man's highest potential back to him, not with lectures or advice, but with subtle nudges, insightful remarks, and courageous truths. That's the kind of woman who leaves a mark on a man's psyche. Long after she's gone, her words echo in his mind. Long after her voice is silent, her presence lingers in his thoughts. Teasing a man's mind doesn't mean playing games or acting distant. It means being real, intellectually real. It means offering depth in a world that thrives on surface. It means bringing curiosity instead of compliance, opinion instead of flattery, originality instead of imitation. It's about being bold enough to disagree when it matters, brave enough to ask better questions, and wise enough to know that the goal isn't to impress, It's to connect. Some women spend their energy trying to become desirable through appearance, but the women who truly win are the ones who focus on becoming memorable through experience. They're the ones who know how to leave a man mentally full, not just physically satisfied. They bring a storm to his routine. They shift the way he sees women, relationships, even himself. And the irony is, those women don't even have to try hard, because their power isn't in seduction, it's in substance. In the end, every man reaches a point where he asks himself, who challenges me? Who grows with me? Who sees beyond my armor? And if your presence has been one that activated his mind, one that sharpened his thinking and awakened new emotional pathways, he will remember you in ways he can't explain. You won't just be another experience. You'll be the one that changed the game. So don't settle for touch. Don't rush to be seen as attractive. Aim to be felt in his thoughts, in his emotions, in the way he makes decisions after talking to you. A man touched by your body may smile in the moment, but a man touched by your mind, he'll carry you with him for a lifetime. Confidence, true confidence, is not the woman who walks into the room demanding attention with a raised voice, exaggerated gestures, or relentless declarations of her worth. No, real confidence whispers where others shout. It moves with grace, speaks with intention, and holds space without force. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about knowing quietly and deeply who you are and not needing the world to validate it. A confident woman doesn't chase approval. She doesn't mold herself into who she thinks a man wants her to be. She doesn't rush to fill silences or impress with performance. Instead, she leans into stillness. She's aware of her energy, her presence, her words. She's comfortable in silence because she knows her value isn't found in noise, it's found in how she carries herself. Her calmness isn't passivity, it's power in its most elegant form. And men, whether they understand it or not, are drawn to it. There's something deeply magnetic about a woman who does not seek to entertain, who doesn't compete with others for attention, but simply exists in her full essence. She doesn't boast about her achievements or exaggerate her beauty. She knows that if a man is wise enough to recognize her value, she won't have to announce it. He'll feel it. This kind of confidence creates mystery. It draws men in because it's rare. It's not performative, it's anchored. And anything that is anchored becomes a source of strength for others. When a man meets a woman like this, his entire rhythm shifts. He finds himself slowing down, becoming more intentional, more thoughtful. Because in her presence, there's no space for pretense. Her calm demands authenticity. Her stillness calls him higher. She doesn't manipulate or provoke to gain control. She simply sets the tone, and that tone becomes the atmosphere in which he either rises or fades away. Many women confuse loudness with strength, thinking that being assertive means constantly proving a point, dominating every interaction, or showcasing success. But in truth, the most powerful woman in the room is often the quietest one, not because she lacks opinions, but because she chooses when and how to express them. She's not in a rush to be heard because she listens first. She watches, she discerns, and when she speaks, people listen because they know she speaks from depth, not desperation. She doesn't need to match masculine energy with masculine behavior. She doesn't compete with men. She complements. She brings balance, not chaos. Her strength is not in overpowering, but in her unshakable self-respect. She doesn't beg to be chosen, she chooses. And that terrifies insecure men and profoundly attracts those who are strong enough to meet her where she stands. Confidence also means emotional regulation. It's the ability to remain composed in the face of conflict, to hold boundaries without turning cold, to express emotions without becoming emotional. A woman in calm control of her reactions shows a man that she is not a slave to circumstances. She doesn't unravel when things don't go her way. She doesn't spiral when misunderstood. Instead, she communicates with clarity, she feels deeply, but responds wisely, and that makes her trustworthy, not just as a partner, but as a pillar. You see, men live in a world that often demands they suppress their chaos. When they meet a woman whose presence is calm yet powerful, she becomes a sanctuary, not because she saves him, but because she invites him to relax his armor. And only a woman rooted in true confidence can create that space, because she's not reacting from wounds, fears, or insecurities. She's acting from self-awareness, from grounded femininity, from the quiet strength of someone who knows, I don't need to control this, I am the control. This is why confident women aren't easily shaken. If a man pulls away, she doesn't chase. If he's inconsistent, she doesn't collapse. If he disrespects her, she doesn't fight for his attention. She walks away, not because she's bitter, but because she honors herself enough to never beg for love. Her calm control isn't passive, it's active respect for her own energy. She protects her peace because she knows that her peace is the highest currency she can offer in a chaotic world. And the irony is, men can sense this. A woman in calm control will have a man second-guessing every casual assumption he's ever made about women. She doesn't flirt to win him. She connects when it feels right. She doesn't dress to impress. She adorns herself because it pleases her. She doesn't fear being alone. She enjoys solitude and shares her space only with those who respect it. That level of self-containment doesn't scream confidence, it radiates it. So many relationships break down because people confuse drama with passion, reaction with investment, chaos with excitement. But the foundation of every meaningful connection is built not in firestorms, but in steadiness. And the woman who can hold that steady flame, calm, unwavering, present, becomes the one who stabilizes, not stifles, who uplifts, not overwhelms. You want to know what captivates a man more than anything else? It's not loud declarations of how worthy you are. It's the quiet way you show it in every interaction, in how you speak to yourself, how you handle disappointment, how you carry yourself when no one's watching. That calm control is rare, and rare becomes desired, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You don't need to change who you are to fit into his world. Stand in your own, firm, soft, clear. Let your quiet confidence speak before you do. Let your stillness lead. Because the moment you stop trying to be heard and start trusting your energy, you'll find that the right man doesn't just notice you. He respects you, follows you, and rises to meet the woman who never had to raise her voice to own the room. One of the most underestimated powers a woman holds in a relationship is the ability to ask the right questions. The kind that don't just scratch the surface, but reach into the places a man usually hides. See, most men walk through life guarded. It's not because they don't want to open up. It's because they've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is weakness, that silence is strength, and that their value is measured by how little they feel. So when a woman approaches him with shallow interest, small talk, routine flattery, or safe conversations, it may entertain him for a while, but it doesn't move him. It doesn't shake his walls. It doesn't reach his soul. But the moment you ask him something real, something unexpected, something uncomfortable but honest, you disarm him. You interrupt his autopilot. You make him stop and feel. That is rare. That is powerful, and that is how connection is born. Start by realizing that most men are not used to being seen beneath the surface. They're praised for their achievements, not for their truth. They're admired for their strength, but rarely embraced for their doubts. So when you ask, what motivates you truly, or what's something you've never told anyone but think about often, you're not just having a conversation. You're offering a kind of intimacy he didn't know he was craving, because no matter how tough or accomplished a man is, there is always a boy inside who wants to be known, not for his power, but for his pain, his passion, his truth. And here's where your real power lies, not in fixing him, but in inviting him. A confident, emotionally intelligent woman doesn't interrogate a man or demand emotional availability. She simply creates the space where it feels safe to open. And she does that through questions, not judgment, not pressure. The tone, the timing, the intention behind your curiosity matters. It's not about being nosy. It's about being present. It's about showing him that you're not here to poke wounds, but to understand the story behind the scars. So instead of asking him what he does for work, ask him what he'd do if money didn't matter. Instead of asking where he sees himself in 5 years, ask what version of himself he's trying to outgrow. When you bypass the typical scripts and go straight for the real, he feels something unfamiliar. He feels seen. And once a man feels truly seen, his guard doesn't just drop, it melts. This isn't about strategy or seduction in the manipulative sense. It's about bringing honor back into communication. It's about showing a man that you're not interested in just his presence, you're interested in his essence. That is rare. Most people don't want to understand. They want to be entertained. Most women don't want to know the depth of a man. They want the performance of one. But if you're the woman who asks, what are you afraid people would misunderstand about you? Or what part of yourself do you silence to keep others comfortable? You've already set yourself apart. Now, this kind of connection building takes patience. Don't expect him to spill his heart open in one conversation. Men test the safety of your presence silently. They notice if you listen without interrupting, if you hear without correcting, if you can hold a truth without needing to fix it. Your role is not to heal him. It's to be real with him, to give him a space that says, you don't have to be perfect here, just be honest. And when he starts to feel that you mean it, he will begin to open. Slowly, yes. Cautiously, of course, but he will open in ways you may have never imagined. And when that happens, when a man begins to trust you with the truths he doesn't speak often, you must treat that moment with reverence, because the masculine soul, once opened, is not easily exposed again. If you respond with mockery, disinterest, or emotional detachment, he will never forget it. He'll retreat, rebuild his walls, and likely not let another woman see that side of him for a long time. But if you respond with warmth, authenticity, and calm strength, he will not only trust you, he will respect you. That respect in a man's heart is the foundation for devotion. The questions you ask signal the level of relationship you're offering. If you stay at surface level, you'll stay in a surface connection. But if you show him that your interest is deeper, that you want to know the man behind the image, the soul behind the strength, then you'll create a relationship built not on roles, but on reality. And that's where true intimacy lives. It's also important to note that asking good questions doesn't make you weak. In fact, it takes more confidence to be curious than it does to perform. It takes more strength to explore than to impress. But in doing so, you elevate the connection. You become the woman who's not just another chapter in his story. You become the turning point, the moment where something inside him wakes up and realizes, this is different. She's not just here for the good times. She's here to understand me. And that understanding doesn't make a man soft. It makes him stronger. Because when a man is met with emotional depth, he grows. He becomes more thoughtful. He becomes more intentional. He learns how to express himself, not because he's told to, but because he wants to, with you. And that kind of communication doesn't just make a relationship better, it makes it unbreakable. So don't be afraid to ask bold questions. Don't be afraid to enter the silence where truth lives. Your curiosity, if guided by empathy and grounded in confidence, can be the very thing that transforms a man, not by controlling him, but by liberating him. Not every man is ready for that kind of connection, but the ones who are, they will meet you there. And they'll never forget the woman who dared to ask what no one else did and held their answers like sacred truth. There is a subtle but profound difference between reflecting what a man wants and reflecting who he is at his core. Most women, often without realizing it, fall into the trap of mirroring a man's desires, his fantasies, his moods, his expectations, thinking this will keep his attention. And yes, it may work for a while. It might spark excitement or earn temporary approval, but it does not build respect. And without respect, desire is just a fleeting thrill. It fades, it cools, it shifts to the next distraction. But when a woman learns to mirror not a man's desires, but his depth, the truth beneath his roles, the man behind the performance, something much more powerful is awakened. She becomes more than a partner. She becomes a reflection of the self he's trying to become. And that changes everything. Most men walk through life wearing layers. They show what the world expects: ambition, strength, confidence, control. But underneath, every man is carrying something deeper. The ache to be seen without the armor, to be understood without judgment, to be valued not for what he does, but for who he is. A woman who mirrors that depth doesn't just react to the surface, she looks past it. She sees beyond the bravado, the charm, even the occasional coldness. She senses the inner world he rarely shares, and she responds not with flattery, but with clarity. She reflects back his values, his principles, his hunger to evolve, not his ego. It's easy to become the woman who caters to a man's desires. It's socially rewarded. Smile when he flirts, laugh when he boasts, stay agreeable, stay soft, stay available. But that kind of woman is common. She becomes a pleasant experience, nothing more. He may enjoy her company, but he won't grow in her presence. Why? Because she's giving him what he already knows, what he wants in the moment, but not what he needs to become better, not what challenges him to confront his deeper questions. A woman who mirrors a man's depth doesn't do it by changing herself to fit his image. She does it by knowing herself so deeply that she naturally calls forth the same from him. She doesn't play roles. She lives in alignment. She doesn't perform. She reveals. And in doing so, she calls out his higher self, not with pressure, but with presence, not with demands, but by embodying what is real, grounded, and unshakable within her. When you mirror a man's depth, you aren't feeding his short-term desire. You're awakening his long-term devotion. You're tapping into the part of him that wants something bigger than chemistry, something bigger than convenience. You're activating the part of him that craves meaning. And most men don't even realize how deeply they need that until they meet a woman who won't settle for surface-level intimacy. You become a mirror not by pretending to be perfect, but by being authentic, by being aware of your emotional world and by speaking from a place of truth. When he shares a dream, don't just compliment it. Ask why it matters to him. When he tells you about his past, don't just sympathize. Explore what it taught him. When he opens up about fear or failure, don't rush to comfort. Stand with him in the discomfort. That's what a mirror does. It doesn't distort. It doesn't beautify. It reflects honestly, clearly, powerfully. The beauty of mirroring a man's depth is that you invite him to feel safe in his complexity. You show him that being vulnerable isn't a liability. It's a bridge to connection. And as he senses that you're not just looking for entertainment or validation, but for depth, he begins to shift. His behavior changes. His communication sharpens. His intention deepens. Because now he's not performing. He's present. He's not impressing. He's investing. That shift doesn't happen because you catered to his desires. It happens because you called him higher. And let's be clear, this isn't about fixing a man or becoming his emotional therapist. It's about embodying such honesty and strength within yourself that he has no choice but to rise to meet you there or walk away. And if he walks away, let him. Because not every man is ready to meet a woman who reflects his deeper self. Some will crave the easier path, the one paved with ego and instant gratification. But the ones who are ready, the ones who've done the work or are willing to, they will see you and they will stay. This is also why emotional maturity is essential. If you mirror a man's desires, especially when they're rooted in insecurity or avoidance, you reinforce his patterns. You become an accomplice to his limitations. But when you reflect his potential, when you respond to the better version of him that's waiting to be claimed, you become a catalyst. You shift the entire dynamic from reactive to transformative. True connection requires courage. It's not always easy to hold space for a man's depth, especially when that depth includes pain, confusion, or vulnerability. But the woman who can remain steady, who doesn't flinch when things get real, who doesn't need to dominate or withdraw, that woman becomes a pillar. Not because she overfunctions, but because her presence is rooted in something real. And here's the deepest truth. When you mirror his depth, you don't just elevate him, you elevate yourself. Because in choosing to operate from a place of authenticity, you refuse to participate in shallow cycles. You build relationships on truth, not tactics. You choose quality over comfort, and eventually that kind of alignment always attracts something profound. So the next time you find yourself trying to keep a man interested, stop and ask yourself, am I giving him what he wants, or am I reflecting who he's meant to be? Because one path will keep you chasing his attention. The other will earn you his respect, his growth, and his unwavering loyalty. Mirror his depth, and you'll awaken a part of him that no performance ever could. In the modern world of fast emotions and instant gratification, pace is everything. The one who sets the rhythm sets the tone. And when it comes to relationships, especially romantic ones, too many women give that power away without even realizing it. They match his energy. They follow his lead. They respond to his timing without asking themselves a deeper question. Who's controlling the pace here? Him or me? Because, make no mistake, the one who controls the pace controls the game. And the woman who understands this doesn't just win his interest, she earns his respect. Men are used to being pursued these days, not necessarily by action, but by reaction. A man texts late, she replies instantly. He flirts casually, and she dives into emotional investment. He gives crumbs, and she builds a feast. This dynamic might feel exciting in the moment, but it puts him in control not just of the timing, but of the value of the relationship. He sets the rules and she plays along, thinking this is just how love begins. But here's a truth many women need to hear. Speed is the enemy of clarity. The faster you move, the more likely you are to miss the signs, the gaps, the truths you need to see before investing your heart. Controlling the pace doesn't mean manipulating someone or playing hard to get. It means being grounded in your own standards. It's about choosing not to rush into intimacy just because the chemistry feels right. It's about giving space for connection to develop with intention, not under pressure. A woman who moves with self-restraint sends a message that she's not desperate for closeness. She's discerning about who gets to come close. When you slow things down, when you refuse to match the frantic pace of modern romance, you change the energy completely. You go from reacting to leading, not by force, not by dominance, but through presence. You pause before replying. You breathe before engaging. You take your time not to manipulate him, but to understand yourself. Is this real? Is this mutual? Is this healthy? Or is this just chemistry masquerading as connection? Men are biologically wired to chase, to pursue. When everything is given quickly, time, attention, emotional access, physical closeness, the chase ends before it ever begins. And the unfortunate truth is, many men lose interest not because the woman did something wrong, but because she moved at his pace instead of honoring her own. She didn't require him to rise. She made herself too easy to reach, not because she's not worthy, but because she didn't slow down long enough to let him earn her. There is power in restraint. There is mystery in patience. There is value in being a woman who doesn't rush the reveal. You don't have to open every part of yourself immediately. Let him wonder. Let him work. Let him show you who he really is over time, not just who he wants you to see in the beginning. Because no matter how smooth or confident a man appears, time is the great revealer. And the woman who controls the pace gives herself the gift of truth. And here's the real beauty. When you control the pace, you learn to control your feelings. You don't fall into obsession. You don't get swept away in fantasy. You're not dating someone's potential. You're witnessing their patterns. You're not imagining what could be. You're observing what is. That kind of emotional discipline creates confidence that no amount of external validation can match. A woman who controls the pace knows her time is valuable. She doesn't allow rushed chemistry to replace thoughtful compatibility. She's not afraid to say not yet because she knows that real intimacy isn't about speed. It's about depth. And depth takes time. It takes space. It takes pacing that allows two people to unfold slowly, honestly, and with mutual respect. Now understand, some men will get frustrated when you control the pace. They'll push, they'll test, they'll try to hurry the connection. That's not a bad thing. It's a filter. Because the men who are only there for ego strokes or shallow pleasure will lose interest when they can't control the tempo. Let them. Their exit is your protection. But the ones who are serious, who are intentional, who are ready for something meaningful, they'll slow down with you. They'll match your rhythm. They'll understand that the best things in life, including you, are worth the wait. There is nothing cold or manipulative about taking your time. It doesn't make you less loving, it makes you wise. It shows that your love is sacred and not everyone gets to access it on demand. You're not a vending machine for validation. You're a woman who understands that self-respect is revealed in timing, and the man who truly values you will rise to meet that energy. When you control the pace, you also give him the opportunity to decide who he wants to be in this dynamic. You're not forcing his hand, you're simply refusing to be rushed. You're inviting him to step into maturity, patience, and presence. And if he accepts that invitation, he begins to build something real, not just with you, but within himself. Because any man who's capable of slowing down with a woman is also capable of building something lasting. So don't be afraid to pause. Don't be afraid to delay. Don't fear the silence that comes when you stop chasing or overgiving. In that silence, truth surfaces. The wrong ones fade. The right ones stay. And most importantly, you remain grounded. You are not here to audition for a man's affection. You are not here to run towards someone who hasn't proven they can walk with you. You're here to choose, not to chase. And choosing takes time. Let the world move fast. Let others settle for intensity without substance. You control the pace. And in doing so, you control the game. Not with force, but with feminine power, patience, and presence. That is how high-value women operate. Not at full speed, but at full awareness. And that's why they don't just attract attention, they attract devotion.